Sweltering temperatures in Spain.
Access to existing camps, though, is
Une force de défense et de sécurité.
Burning hijabs in rage.
Sportif. Voilà ce dont on se souvient de Sandalia.
Police firing in the streets.
La paz de la protesta a la que asistieron trabajadores del sector.
As many as 30 gay rights activists.
Women cutting their hair.
Taliban yönetimi bugüne kadar erkeklere karışmadı.
I'm from Greece. I'm from Bristol in England.
I'm from Spain.
Turkey. France.
Poland.
Catalonia. Portugal.
Belgium. I think at the minute the biggest human rights problem in our country is the levels of poverty, cost of living crisis. I think previously was something that affected a small percentage of the population, and it seems that there's only really media attention and attention being brought to it now that it affects like a much larger proportion of people. So yeah, cost of living crisis, poverty, I'd say that's the biggest human right issue.
The biggest human rights problem in my country, which is Poland, would be the democracy or the women's rights, also the refugees' rights, in my opinion, and the democracy due to our issues with the government, the court issues. I'm not that specialized to talk about it all, but I know there is some existing. When it comes to women's rights, I would say mainly it's caused by our government's vision on the abortion, which is not legal in all of the cases like in other places around the world. And the third thing that I mentioned, the refugees' rights, with the crisis in Ukraine coming, of course we open up the borders for the Ukrainian refugees, but when it comes to other refugees from especially the Middle East, we are not accepting.
Right now, that has an effect on most citizens of Greece, especially close to the borders, is the problem with the refugees. There are refugees entering the city, the country, crossing the borders, and instead of treating them like human beings, there are many times occasional phenomena that people are treated not in the proper way.
The free speech, mostly if you are independentist, you have a lot of problems expressing yourself. It's a forbidden topic for a lot of Spaniards and for the Spanish government, so they put a lot of a lot of problems for you to be free and express yourself in that way. And also with the migrants, mostly the migrants that come from Africa, they are put in prisons for the migrants, and the conditions there are horrible.
Probably Palestine and Israel and the conflict there, and how the rest of the world so there's war in Ukraine, and this is like everyone in the UK, for example, is flying Ukrainian flags and like supporting them and like thinking that we should support them. But when it comes to Palestine, for example, it's just Eurovision, and I think Poland in the same sentence said we don't support the war in Ukraine, and then said 12 points to Israel. I just think it's like quite ironic that like the whole world is really against the Ukraine conflict and like thinking that Russia are so terrible, but then if it's happening in a country that's not European, in the Middle East, it's not a problem.
Yes, there was a news a couple of months ago that touched me. The news was about the Iranian girl who wasn't wearing a hijab. And as far as I remember, she was killed in the police office, and this is very big human rights issues, and this news were touching me so much.
Although it's said that, oh yeah, we have equality, I think that's not valid, not in Greece. It's funny because yesterday, I don't know how do you say it in terms of like non-documentary, but yesterday there was the national exams in Greece to pass in the university, and the subject of like literature was being examined, and the kids had to write an essay and read like passages, and the main theme of it was gender equality and the feminism and neo-feminism like in the later years. And I think that's very hypocritical personally, because equality is definitely not a thing. Not in the workforce, not in daily life, not in the way that a lot of men in my country specifically address women.
But there's something in the culture itself, or like in the human itself, that has developed over the years not being conscious, that you still feel very, very hard as a woman. It's these little things now, how professors are with you, how people that are new are with you. So as a woman, I'm always very angry because I still notice a lot of bad things, a lot of inequality, even though they say they try, but there's something in here in the way we act with each other that has to be changed, and I do believe this will change in a couple of years, maybe 10, 20, I don't know. So we're on the way, but we're not there yet.
I think we have a lot of old people, so they have don't have the same open mind in Portugal, so it's very hard for people that from LGBT, or for I'm a woman and I want to do some, I don't know, work, like man's work, I don't know, I want to be a manager. In Portugal was very hard with that. I think we are improving a lot about that. The young people are improving that and try to open mind of the old people, because we don't have a lot of young people in Portugal, even in the biggest cities like Lisbon or Porto, we have majority of the people, it's old people, and it's very hard to change. So I think that's the biggest problem in Portugal about the human rights, I guess.
We've significantly dropped in the rating of support for LGBTQ, especially trans. At the moment, there's a moral dilemma that in every media show, in every social media, trans people are being completely demonized, and it's being seen throughout society, and it's really scary because obviously I am a member of the LGBTQ community, and seeing my country drop in the ratings of the most free places for LGBTQ is scary.
I think we should do a little distinction between the government and society. In a government way, it's really good. I think Spain was the third country in the world or in Europe, now I'm not sure, to approve the matrimonial gay, right? So it's in that aspect it's nice, it's good, but in society there's still a lot of work to do. There's still homophobic crimes, there's still persecution in the streets. It's not really common, but we still have it, and from time to time we have in the news an homophobic death, literally.
I'm not the biggest fan of British royal family. Nothing against the individuals so much. Personally, I don't think they chose, they're born into that life. However, I think it's a very outdated system. There's a massive problem of homelessness in our country. More than 250,000 people don't have a home, yet we pay millions and millions of pounds to support one family. It just, in my mind, doesn't make any sense, and it's a good representation of austerity in Britain, I think, and the gap between the rich and poor getting bigger. That's my opinion.
Yes, specifically in Greece, I've had some incidents about a minority, the so-called gypsies, which are a minority in Greece and so many other countries. But there have been many incidents with police brutality towards them.
For example, a kid stole some gasoline and drove off the gas station with its car, but was shot to death by a police officer just because they were gypsies and they didn't consider taking another measure to stop the vehicle. They just kept shooting.
Especially Africa, they don't have the opportunity to develop for themselves and by themselves. So it's like a status quo. We try as Western countries to keep our supremacy upon the rest of the world. So we do ingerence, if it's a good word, ingerence into other countries to keep this status quo where we have like the upper level. And so for me, I think it's the worst issue about human rights, because yeah, I think we use these countries as our wholesale market, like our supermarket, and yeah, for sure it's like a domination process to keep our nice living standards.
We have like the territory of Andalusia. It's so close to Morocco, so people come from Morocco all the time, and sometimes they just take the refugees and put them on help, on social help, but sometimes they just like get them to their countries or leave them, and I don't think that's right. And once they do it, I think they get so much hate because of crossing.
If you were to criticize yourself about being a part in one of the problems, what would that be?
If I had to talk about being or taking part in a problem about a violation of human rights, I don't know if I have ever been involved in a specific situation, but sometimes I have heard maybe comments or expressions or a way of thinking about, for example, refugees, especially in my town that I live in the south of Spain, and maybe I would have had bigger intervention to stop those people and saying that that's not the correct way of acting towards refugees or on that type of situations. I would say that I haven't had the right or the correct action.